Austin Strain. I'm here with Ron Gardner. I'm here with Brandon Hines. Austin Strain happens to be LD for jelly. Austin Strain, which is this beautiful person, the backwards hat.
Howdy.
I don't think I can pull it off as well as him. Yeah? No? Oh, no, be comfortable. Ah. Austin Strain happens to be LD for
Jelly roll.
Jelly roll. Jelly roll. Sunday.
You gotta put power into it.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. We can tell you the whole scene, but you only need the edge. What does LD mean?
Lighting director.
Okay. Let's rewind a little bit to where you're just a sparkle in your daddy's eye.
Yes.
Tell me about that moment. When your mom looked gazingly into your dad's eyes.
I think I was conceived in the back of an El Camino in a Shoney's parking lot.
How would you know that? That is so specific. Let's skip ahead a little bit. You're born. Where were you born?
I was born in Dallas, Texas, actually.
Okay.
Grew up in a church background.
Okay.
Doing church lighting out in Houston. Grew up in Houston, lived in Houston for 18 years. Worked with a lot of mega churches, as you know, Houston's very well known for that.
Yes. All the mega churches are there.
You got Lakewood and tons of others.
Yeah.
Never really touched base there, but grew up touring with my brother. He was a traveling artist at one point, and so I always had a large fascination for production, creative, all of the above.
Sure.
That was essentially something that I just grew a love for immediately. It was a hobby to me that eventually became an occupation.
Okay, so. During like the churches, how'd you get on tour? Connect those dots for me.
So
did you go to a production house or no? Or?
No. So exactly what happened was I reached out to a bunch of local venues. So I had worked at House of Blues. I had worked at what Houston had as Revention Music Center, Bayou Music Center. It was a club venue.
Okay.
And then there was another one there called White Oak Music Hall. I worked for a small production company called Generations AV at the time. And then things kind of grew on. I networked, and it eventually turned into Visual Edge reaching out to me. If you know who Josh Beard is. He offered me a tour to go out with an artist named Torrin Wells. And so from Torrin, I was offered plenty of other gigs. Like that was like my first like actual tour. And I was 20 years old at the time. So that was really cool. From there, I went and worked for a church for a month in California, and then wrapped that up on Christmas Eve that year of, I think it was 2021.
Okay.
Spent my 21st birthday by myself in a city that I had never been to, never knew anybody there other than the people that brought me out there. So that was kind of cool.
What city, LA?
It was in Sacramento, Bayside, Granite Bay to be specific.
Okay.
So that was really cool. I got to work with a guy named Tony Franson. Tony's a class act dude. Plenty of stories about working with Prince that I heard from him, which was very, very cool. Got to touch base with him earlier this year at CMA Fest, so that was...
Prince?
No, Tony.
It's like, he's dead.
Not here.
Tell me about that story. What did he say?
The ghost of Prince. But then I went on to go work for Riley Green. That was my first introduction into the country world whenever it came to lighting. I went and did Riley Green. I did Marcus King after that. Cameron Marlowe, Bailey Zimmerman. I got to do some work on Chris Stapleton with a guy named Mac Mosier, who's a really good buddy of mine. And one day I was working on Bailey up at the shop, and we were programming that for the Morgan Wallen tour. And somebody came up and was like, "Do you want to do Jelly Roll?" I would love to do that. And that person is now like a father to me. We call him Creech. His real name's Steven Anderson. He's my account rep out here from Premier Global.
Cool.
So they take really, really, really good care of me out here. And now I'm here, and it's been history ever since.
So how long you been with Jelly for?
About a year and a half. I started March of 2022.
Okay. So...
Or sorry, 2023.
A lot has changed since last time I saw you. Because y'all were in a shed last time.
Yes, we were.
And it was sold out. It was great. But you all have been like launching, and like this is massive, man.
It is a different ball game.
So what has changed from that show to this show?
So to this show, this one has more theatrical aspects to it. So out on this show, we have an Austrian curtain that is automated. We have one of the craziest pieces of truss technology that you will see eventually in the show.
Okay.
And it's what we call the crazy truss. It is 12 different trusses that are made up that can make different shapes. So I can make a half circle, I can make it smile, I can do a pyramid, all sorts of things. I can make a mountain out of it, I can make it do the worm. Whatever your mind can possibly think of, it can almost do. So it's loaded up with 12 VL3600s from Verilight and 12 pixel curves from Chauvet, which is a new fixture that went out on the market this year. And I think it is by far my new favorite fixture.
Okay, cool. So I have been very hesitant to do any LD interviews, and that's all. I hear you guys have been asking for these, and I'm doing them, but the only reason, if I'm gonna be completely honest of why I'm doing it, wow, I'm like, keep scooting closer.
You got it.
If I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys, it's because of my ignorance for it. I'm an audio guy through and through. I did some other stuff on stage, but the lighting for me is a little intimidating because you guys can do some things that audio really can't, like signal going both ways. And I remember like there's been so many times, because I have a church background as well, sitting or in a club, trying to spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure out why one light will not work when everything else seems to be working, and then you fix that to have another one work or banks of them work, and it's like, there's so much frustration in it. So I'm gonna lean a little bit into my ignorance with it, but also say thank you for doing this with me.
Of course.
But and I've also seen, in terms of lighting, it's gone from LODs being really into it and involved with it to kind of watching and hitting play through it and going through. Talk to me about this one a little bit. Is it the same idea as you've done a bunch in pre-pro, now you hit play, kind of monitoring it? Are you still involved with it? Or
out here with Jelly, there is constant curveballs.
Okay.
Just due to the growth of the beast that we have. It's always, hey, guess what's coming next? So that's always been kind of a fun thing. But a lot of tours in a traditional standpoint, you'll have your operators, your designers, your directors, your creative directors, and then your programmers. There's sometimes that the programmers don't even, they'll go to the first two shows, see it out, and then send it off. And then an operator will go out there and pretty much be the press play person.
So what do you consider yourself?
So I'm a little bit all of the above.
Okay.
So whenever we first did this, the show designers, Trask House, Eric Gillespie, and John McGuire, they designed this rig, And then there were a couple of programmers that are also very, very good friends of mine, Troy Eckerman and Caleb Eckerman, very good friends of mine. Caleb was present for a lot of it, and so was Troy. And then a lot of it just kind of got worked and morphed and changed into different ways as time progressed. I mean, there was a point in time that the first 2 weeks of the tour, I was getting up at walk-in chalk and setting up a console in a corner with my time code rig and doing songs.
Walk and talk, for you guys that don't know what that is, it's the very beginning where they're chalking out for the rig points. It's the very beginning of this. Most people aren't normally there for that unless you're a rigger, have to be there for it. Or local labor. Sorry, keep going.
But yeah, it's morphed into something that has completely changed. None of this show looks like what it did whenever it left rehearsals.
Really? Okay. So
if I'm being completely honest, yeah, it has completely changed around.
So not only being a different show from last year, each from the beginning of this tour to now has been not completely different, but it's changed and evolved into something else.
Correct. A lot of the songs the same, but completely different show.
Okay, so walk me through that process of like, how does that change from you have this set, you go through rehearsals, doing a show. Does it somebody's idea spark, or do you get an idea like, oh, this would be cool with this, or is it kind of practically needing to change some things because of, or is it like all the above, or?
So our manager, Jelly's manager, is very hands-on with the show. So during the show, you'll see him hop on a headset occasionally and be like, hey, let's try this, let's do that. So that's really cool, and it's never been a position that I've been in before to have somebody do that. And so I think it's super neat.
Yeah.
And it's different. And
that could break the monotony up a bit too. Instead of doing the same thing day in and day out and day in and day out, to always be striving for cooler and newer things is pretty.
Exactly. And so what I like to call constantly reinventing the wheel. And so that it's the amazing thing that I loved about this job as a kid was it was never the same thing. It's always something different because your creativity, your mind is endless.
Sure.
And so that can be expressed in this. So what you're thinking, you can put visual to the eye. I'm a big detail-oriented person. So everything that you hear in the show, you will visually see.
It is really cool to see, like, and it's a whole different aspect I'm just not even really, like, understand of how to do it, of, like, you're taking audible and taking it into visual, but not just doing that, like, doing it with excellence in a way that's not distracting, that's adding to, that's in theme with what they're trying to do in a bigger picture based upon the rhythm of the song or the feel or the style of the song. Because I know there's colors that maybe feel more active or feel more warm or feel more cold, or a busyness that you want to set that scene for.
I feel like working in churches a lot, that was a big thing because Sunday morning services, they don't necessarily want them to be distracting, but also at the same time, some churches have the budget for those bigger rigs, some churches don't. So whenever I would work with those smaller places of worship and all of that, it was always taking a small rig to make it look bigger than it actually is. Which is also a thing that I actually learned from a Disney Imagineer called False Perspective.
Interesting. Okay.
So that was something that I took and ran with as a kid of just, I want to make something look way bigger than it actually is.
What do you think is the easiest way for something to look bigger than it is?
I think the best way to put it would be, like, for me, my biggest way of doing it is taking a gobo and spreading it out into like a really wide zoom and kind of really broken up, adding texture. As LDs, we are painters of air. I think that's the best way to put it.
I like that.
And so if you can put that texture in the air through like a gobo and a color, like your warmer tones, like for a softer song, an amber and a CTO pair really well together. That is a very welcoming, warm feeling. CTO is like your warmer white.
Oh, okay.
So anything from that, like 3200 Kelvin,
Yeah.
like your lights that you use for TV or video.
Now, is there I know for sounds, there's a certain template that you start with.
Mm-hmm.
Is it kind of the same way with lighting?
Essentially, so in a way, yes.
Okay.
So everything starts in the drafting process.
Okay.
A lot of people use a software called Vectorworks or Capture.
Sure.
And then from there you can test things out and look at things in the visualization side. Capture, you can do both plotting and previs, which is where you can pre-visualize everything. There's another software called Depends. There's WYSIWYG. There's all sorts of visualization softwares that you can use.
What do you think separates a good LD from a great LD?
I think somebody who can understand music in a correct way. Growing up with my dad being a worship pastor, it made it really easy to understand music theory.
Sure.
So I always constantly grew up around that and hearing those minute details and all the little accents to a song. You have to be able to pick a song apart. I feel like that's one great quality to have. But also on top of that, just being calm, cool, and collected.
I like that.
The reason I say that is there was a show on this tour that my UPS in my rack failed, and I had nothing going to the rig. I had no data going to the rig.
What'd you do?
And I just calm, cooled, and collected, looked at my crew chief that stands next to me during the show. And I said, hey, we just lost power. Let's take a second and dive into this. Don't panic. And sure enough, he ran back over here. We have 4 dimmer beaches on this rig. So he ran back here to this front of house one and checked to see if power was still going out. And he's, hey, we have power. And sure enough, I looked down and our UPS failed. So I had to unplug everything out of the UPS and get everything into a power splitter. And we had it ready to go in 3 minutes. Not a panic in the world, and just carrying on with the show.
What's one of the best shows you've seen lighting-wise?
Best shows I've seen lighting-wise. Wow, that's a hard one because everything's so subjective to the music.
Absolutely.
That's another great thing about lighting is it's very subjective.
Yeah.
It's to a person's taste. I can look at a Post Malone show and know that was Dan Norman. Dan Norman did all the stuff for Posty for a while. I'm pretty sure he still does. And there's plenty of other LDs that I can look at and I can tell their style. But I think probably the best show I've seen lighting wise, Eric Church has a very solid show.
Okay.
Gavin is a good friend of mine, and it's very, very tastefully done.
What's your favorite song to do on this tour?
Oh, that's tough. It's crazy because these 2 songs are right back to back. It would be Liar and Bottle of Mary Jane.
Okay, why is that?
Bottle of Mary Jane is very rock and roll. Band does a whole pass around thing that is really cool. They do a really cool 3-part guitar harmony, which blows my mind that is part of a country show, as it is a rock show in a country show.
Yeah.
And that's really fun, but Liar's really cool because there's a lot of fine details to accent in that. There's a lot of flyouts and it's just a big feeling song.
What is the biggest mistake you see new LDs making?
Not paying attention to matching all of their colors.
Explain.
So you go into a festival and you have your ground package. Well, the orange on your washes does not match the orange in the festival rig.
Got it. Okay.
And so what I tend to do on every festival show is I ask for an overnight programming session, if permitted.
Okay.
And I will sit outside in the dark, and I will have a tripod on my phone, because there is one thing that somebody will walk away with tonight at the end, and it's not always merch, it's not always a CD, it's this wonderful thing right here. Photos and videos will last forever. And I will sit there and I will leave the camera app out on my phone and not touch any of the settings, because the average person doesn't really think about changing the settings on their phone.
Yeah.
And they'll walk away with that, and that'll be there forever. They'll go post it on social media. And so I'll look at the camera, and I will match every single color.
That's so good, because like I have a lot of LED people do that and talked about that, because like it looks great until you bring the phone out and it looks like garbage.
Exactly.
And that's so smart to bring it down. Like at the end of the day, how's that going to look? Because that's going to get more publicity and probably then people sitting here with that.
Because everybody's got TikTok, Instagram, Facebook nowadays. Those videos are going to get posted somewhere, and if it's going to be my work, I want to be able to say that I took the time and paid attention to the detail of somebody walking away with something that's going to be on the internet forever.
Man, that's good. Huh. What piece of advice did you give to LEDs that would immediately make their lives easier?
Detail, detail, detail.
Okay. Do me a favor. Can you walk us through this console and how you have it set up?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Course.
Are you able to get in there?
For the most part, I can give a very good explanation here. So the way that I set everything up is I'll make a whole bunch of cues in the console. So these buttons here trigger what's called sequences. Sequences store information. You can put specific lights in there. You can put a specific color in there. All of these hold different pieces of data, such as position, dimmer, gobo, color, your shutter, your focus, all of it. So I'll make a whole bunch of these as a template, and I will do what's called striping timecode into a timecode pool. What timecode really does is it allows you to be more detail oriented and push all the buttons that you cannot physically push yourself. And I think that is what allows you to accent all those fine details of a show. Timecode fails, kind of screwed. It depends. But I have everything triggered by timecode coming from Brendan over at Front of House. Which is stemmed from our playback guy all the way back of house. But I always leave a layout view which shows me what all the fixtures are doing. But back to the timecode side of things, I can look at what things are triggering here and on the rig. And so whenever I'm striping that timecode out, I'll always have a kick, I'll always have a snare. And then after that, you have your fine details that you will listen to and nitpick. I'll listen to a song 50, 60 times before I'm even done with it. That's probably even just by the second pass. So I'll do 5 passes on a song before I even make it out of rehearsals.
Wow.
So that's just one big thing, but pretty much a lot of the show is automated. As soon as one song finishes, another one triggers. But yeah, essentially, whenever I walk through and get my console set up every morning, I'll go through and I have all of my positions here. I have my band focuses. We have a lot of scenic stuff. We have a big skull that you'll see in the show. We have a rosary that you'll see in the show. Those are all things that are highlighted often in the show. So I have to be able to focus it because we modulate every day. If anybody ever expects to come into a show and have the same focus every day, it's not possible. because these fixtures will be in a truck and they will rattle on the way to the next gig. So nothing's ever going to be the same.
That makes sense.
So yeah, it's constantly updating stuff, but there's a lot of things that I do to make my life easier. So I have like a lot of my common programming things up here that I'll use and over here. And then I have like a whole bunch of Lua scripts that I will do for fixture specific things, that I can do a sweep across the rig going one way or another way. There's just so many possibilities around this.
Do you have any spots or follow spots?
Yes, I do. So we have 6 Robo spots.
Oh, okay.
So Robo spots, I can trigger from the console, and I can change the color of them, any color from the console. And they have a base station over in the stage right dimmer beach that they're looking through a camera.
Yeah.
And they have it pointed and all that. I'll walk you through that later, and it looks really cool. It's like playing a video game.
Yeah, I've seen those. Those are really cool.
So those are always fun to toy around with. But yeah, I have all those right here that I can just bring up at my own whim.
That's cool.
So in some senses, yeah, I feel like an audio guy. I'm over here constantly watching levels and stuff, which is what I have this monitor over here for, is so that I can see the video levels whenever I'm running the show. And so that makes life really easy.
Should we go take a look at those spots?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so this is it.
Yes, so this is the Robo base station. So I can move this around and tilt it, zoom around, kind of really figure out and pinpoint where everything is. And so that crosshair is always going to be your dead center. So we have different positions on here for different spots. So like for our B stage, whenever Jelly walks out, that's there. And then there's like a center, and then a stage left side where they can maneuver and move around. So this one's spot 4. This one's mainly used on Jelly the whole time.
You know what this reminds me of? Like the old bike games that you play.
Yes, the arcade games.
Yes.
Yes, no, totally, 100%.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, so spots 4 and 3 get used for Jelly. 1 and 2 get used on our stage left and stage right guitar player. Spot 5 gets used on our bass player. And spot 6 is kind of our guest pickup. And
cool.
So it makes things tremendously easy, and video always loves it because then they get consistency in levels.
That's awesome. All right, let's get out of the dark.
Kind of scared of the dark.
So if there's people that are watching this that would love to be a lighting director one day or want to one day be here, what advice would you give to them to maybe be in your shoes one day?
I think the best advice, get involved in your local production companies. Go work for a local union. Go work being a stagehand. I mean, I had to pay my dues. So I think that probably is the best advice I could give. Be eager. If you want it, you can get it. And if you don't want it bad enough, then that's just kind of a difficult thing. So as long as you have the drive to get there, you'll get there.
I love it. So if people want to follow you and follow your career, where can they follow you at?
You can follow me at austin.strain on pretty much all socials.
Okay. Or come to a Jelly Roll show.
Or come to a Jelly Roll show.
You.
Say hi.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you.